Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Tell the Truth, episode number 24. Here with DG, CJ, yours truly, D-Mac, and we have a special guest from Chief in the North newsletter over there on Substack and Only Weird Games, a part of KCSN, Mr. Seth Keysor himself. What's up, Seth?
Good you know what? Hey, you know what? I appreciate you guys asking me. It's a fun day to talk Chiefs, and I was getting yelled at a lot in my mentions, so this seems funner than continuing to get hollered at. But no, I'm excited to talk Chiefs with you guys. Appreciate you asking me.
Absolutely. Look, man, we have a little bit more fun than I think it is on Chiefs Twitter all the time. So, we try not to freak out and overreact to everything.
Sure. There's a lot of things that are more fun than Chiefs Twitter. And I love a lot of the people on Chiefs Twitter. But getting a hangnail, it's probably more fun than Chiefs Twitter. Yeah. Getting hit by a slow-moving car, probably more fun than and I'm part of that. And I feel like I get to say that because I'm part of the problem. Like, I sit there like on game days and just freak out with every snap too. And so I fully acknowledge that I am part of the problem while still hating the problem.
Oh, absolutely.
That's hilarious.
You got to be, because I have my old tweets about Dan Sorensen when Tyrann Mathieu was throwing his hands up every other play because Dan was somewhere that he wasn't supposed to be. I have those tweets where I was freaking out every single play. So I'm a part of the problem too, but I like to complain about the problem.
That's what we love about Chiefs Twitter. We love it. Maybe the highs and the lows. We love it.
Yep, we experience it all together. There's really nothing like it when something happens and that like mass reaction on Twitter. Like, I almost remember that as much as I remember the moments, like 13 seconds, back in 21, like watching collectively, not just Chiefs fans, but everyone who covers football just losing their mind collectively. That there's something fun about that joined experience there. And that's one reason why, as the site further descends into Hades, I'm never logging off just because it's too much fun.
You're not lying one bit. I mean, it's hilarious now that we've seen the evolution. I mean, we used to have, for me, quote unquote, back in the day where, all of our collective Chiefs experiences were Jamal Charles' insane runs and, great Tony Gonzalez catches. And now every single time we have a great moment, it's always on national TV. So everybody across the NFL universe is reacting in real time. And we go through the highs and lows, and they always end in February at this point. So who's complaining?
They do. It's awesome. It's a great experience.
Absolutely.
Great time to be a Chiefs fan, man. So look, for those of you who do not know, Seth Keysor has been, in the Chiefs space, talking about the Chiefs, breaking down the Chiefs for a very long time. A person that we'll get into a little bit later on, but he's been charting Mahomes, for all of his seasons as well. And so there's a special question we'll ask at the end as far as that's concerned. But look, since we last talked to you guys, a guy that over the last season had incredibly elite campaign for us, certainly helped the Chiefs not only win this Super Bowl, but the previous two as well. L'Jarius Sneed got traded to the Tennessee Titans, got a brand new spanking deal for $55 million guaranteed as well. And also, congratulations to L'Jarius Sneed for getting this money, man.
Absolutely.
That man
well earned.
Worked his butt off to get better. Fourth round pick, earned it. And he has cashed out officially. The Chiefs in return received a 2025 third round pick from the Titans, as well as the 7th round pick swap in this year's current draft as well. So I'll just ask the entire panel, and we'll start with you, Seth. Seth, first of all, what were your immediate reactions to the trade? And if you have to, now having a little bit of time to sit with it, give it a grade, not knowing what we're going to use the picks on, not knowing what we're going to use the cap space on, just give it a grade as well.
Right. And you really can only gauge a trade based on the return that you get in the moment, because you know a relative value of a draft pick before, maybe you luck out, maybe you don't, but you know the relative value. My initial reaction was a little bit of disappointment, especially considering that there were multiple teams that were involved in the conversations. I expected a little more of a return. Everyone hates delayed fun. And so like the third rounder being next year, that bumps down the value a little bit. And so my initial reaction was disappointment at the return, and also a little bit of resignation of, okay, so there was never a plan to extend him or keep him on the tag this year. That was all a facade to try to drive up the value as much as possible. So that's my instant reaction.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. CJ, what about you? What was your instant reaction, and what do you grade you're going to give?
First, I would definitely well deserved from Sneed. I know as a player, it's hard to deal with the emotions of obviously winning a Super Bowl first and foremost, especially going back to back. First off, you made history, first time in 20 years, and then you get to enjoy it for like what, a week after after the parade. You're immediately thinking about, all right, what's the next? So you get on the phone with your agents, and then right after that, the coaches are behind because they're thinking about the combine, and we all know what happens in Indianapolis. The agents and GMs start talking, and deals start getting done. So it wouldn't shock me if obviously that's when the conversation started between. And like Seth, I was always telling guys in our chat, and DG and D-Mac know, I always thought it'd be a non-playoff team that would sign Sneed, like a Tennessee, a Carolina, a Arizona, teams that have a lot of cap space and a lot of picks. So I'm not surprised by the team that did it. Now I'm like you, I agree. I wish we could have got a little better compensation, but knowing that the team, they know the situation, you're not going to bring them back. It's kind of hard to try to push that leverage on other teams. So we got the compensation done. Sneed gets to go somewhere and gets his money. So obviously overall, I was just kind of like, I was like more so like I kind of knew this was going to happen. It was like a formality to me because the Chris Jones news, like Seth, that's the one where I lost my mind. Like when we were all reacting, like I was running around the house screaming because that's my twin. I always joke about it because people say, oh, I look like him and everything. So I was more excited about that move more than anything because that's like the big domino for me. You got Chris Jones signed. He's going to retire a Chief. He's locked in forever. So now that completely lets us know, all right, they're all in on trying to keep this thing together, keep this band rolling, and trying to make history and try to go for a three-peat. So I was more so like when the Sneed news dropped, it was like at what, 10 o'clock, 9:30? It was like at nighttime, middle of the night. So
they only do business after hours in Kansas City,
clearly.
apparently.
Veach
Brett
at the 10
Veach
o'clock.
works the night shift. He like 8 at night. He's like, better start calling someone. That's
news.
Put on these folks, man.
Tennessee, you guys want to make that deal? All right, let's go ahead and announce that. So, no, it was good to see. Absolutely, I was glad to get it done. Just get it out the way. It was like a formality. I knew it was going to get done. Now it's just the physical and everything. So I kind of knew it was going to happen. So I was just happy it got it done. And now we can go into the draft with a clear mind, clear head, knowing we now have 7 picks. So now we can just go out there and do what Veach does and try to make a move, try to make a better roster.
Mm-hmm. DG, what about you?
Yeah, my first initial reaction was there's a lot of dumb Colts Twitter reporters out there.
Colts Twitter, baby.
But nah, man, it's I guess you could say you always have that human element in things, or where you care about people and you don't want to see things come to an end, and that's kind of how I felt about Sneed. But I knew it was going to happen at some point. Like you knew he was going to get traded. You knew he wasn't going to be here playing on that tag or whatever. It was just way too risky for him to do that. So at the end of the day, I just man, I'm happy for him. Especially knowing his story, where he's come from, his family, and the dynamics of his family and everything like that. Now that he can be in the position to really take care of them, really do what he needs to do for them or whatever. It was well deserved, man. He had a phenomenal year. A lot of people, obviously thought he should have been all pro, but wasn't. But at the same time, that still doesn't take away, what he did on the field this year for us. So definitely gonna be missed here in Kansas City. But at the same time, you rather see guys go off and get paid and get what they deserve. So can't be ever mad at that. So proud of L'Jarius, and hopefully he goes there and balls out.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, initially with the value, I was a little bit underwhelmed. I was like, okay, well, I was hoping for a third this year at kind of baseline value, but just that's the point. I mean, it was pretty good signal that they had no plans really to pay him, and whatever that trade might have tried to manifest with the Colts, why it did not actually come to fruition, for one reason or another, it just didn't. And they ended up taking the deal that they did. And obviously there was a little bit of a battle between what they needed in immediate cap space, and we'll see what they end up doing with that. But as I sat with it, I understood it, why they didn't want to trade or necessarily sign him. He is a guy with only one elite season. Obviously, we have the knee concerns. He is 27. It's a volatile position. All of those things all go into the discussion for Brett Veach and where he's necessarily trying to plan out some money for some other extensions for players I will not name, so that Seth does not get mad at me. But I understood it kind of in hindsight,
I've become. Is this about Nick Bolton? This is about Nick Bolton, isn't it?
Oh boy!
I've like become the poster boy.
Like
people think that I'm like the poster boy for Nick Bolton hate, and I don't know how this happened to me. I am like the eternally sunshine and rainbows guy, and I have become like the official haters club president. And I'm just like, no, it's just like, don't give him that much money.
But
But
don't
the
give him Fred Warner
inevitability,
money, please.
Not that much. Pay him, just not that much.
yeah,
Just a
the
little bit.
inevitability of it, though, I'm more resigned to it at this point. And so now at that point, once you've like just accepted something, it can start to become funny. And that's why it's just like the entire episodes that we've had on Only Weird Games that revolve around, well, I don't know how they're going to pay Mahomes next year when they got to pay Nick Bolton. Like, and it's become this whole thing because I really think they're probably going to end up paying him a number that's going to make me very uncomfortable. And now, but anyway, I'm sorry. I'm so easy to derail because that's what it's like. Well, yeah, but he was like, you can't give Warner money. It's like, well, why not? Well, did you watch Warner in the Super Bowl? Like,
Super Bowl?
what he was doing to affect the coverage dynamics, and then Nick Bolton can't do that. And so unless you're middle linebacker, your inside linebacker, I don't care, where he's at, can affect coverage dynamics like that. I mean, you just can't pay him elite money, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm sorry. Please go ahead. I can't wait for you to throw out like a Jamal Charles belongs in the Hall of Fame thing, and I'm just gonna just completely.
No, look, we're gonna play the hits. Don't worry, Seth. No,
Play
but
the hits is crazy.
Look, it's a little bit of it's a dynamic for me because I'm an analytics guy personally, and so it's it's not a non-premium position. Paying a lot of money to non-premium positions is not something that I'm comfortable with. But I also love Nick Bolton, and he's a Mizzou guy, and obviously Spags loves him.
Good player,
so look, we'll see what the number ends up going to. But anyway, as far as L'Jarius Sneed is, I thank him for his service certainly here. I understand why Brett didn't want to pay him, and I think ultimately, if you use that pick, specifically the third rounder, if you want to use it to move up, if you want to use your pick now to move up in this year's draft or next year's draft, things of that nature, I understand why that value can still be okay. So I put it at about a C. I would say, kind of initially was like a D, and I was like, okay, you know what? Let's take it from a holistic view and relax on it from that standpoint. So that's where I landed with the L'Jarius Sneed trade. But I understand why it ended up happening, and I have to thank him for his service, certainly, because he was a fun player, an exciting player, a guy that brought an attitude to the defense, in my opinion, that we really needed.
Yes.
And look, he's a part of one of the best Chiefs defenses in NFL history, or you can say NFL history, especially with their playoff run. I mean, it was historic. So
second half,
he deserves all those flowers, absolutely. So the other thing that had happened by the time that we ended up talking is Hollywood Brown being added to this offense. This is a more fun subject, to say the least. He's a guy that I love from a speed perspective and his actual profile as a wide receiver to actually do what I like to call actual wide receiver things, which is something that the Chiefs wide receiver core really struggled with last year, like catch the ball and run useful routes. So I will give you the floor, Seth, to start out here. You obviously did your film review of Hollywood Brown. Just give a summation of what you found, how you felt about it. And again, everybody, he's just going to do this. And please go to the Chiefs and North newsletter to get a little bit more in depth. But go ahead, Seth.
Sure. So what I did with Brown is what I would do with any receiver. I think it was 7 games. I ended up taking a look at the all-22 and charting every route. Because, with wide receivers, they're so dependent statistically on everything that happens around them that you really have to take a look at what they're doing, snap in and snap out. And that's why, like, a couple of the video clips I made for the film review were, him getting separation deep, that's something that should have been, 50-yard touchdown, but the ball is 10 yards beyond him. Things like that. You've got to take a look at those things to try to figure out who the player is, not just what they managed to produce in weird surroundings in Arizona. That offense was not, it wasn't terrific. In the quarterback play, even when Murray came back, and I like Kyler Murray, but he wasn't clearly himself at first, and it just that's just tough. Yeah. So what I would say with Brown, there's obviously a whole film review there, and there's a ton of different things to go into. One thing that I went into it and came out that was a little bit different than what I expected was how much more complete he was as a receiver than what I went into it expecting. You hear about, he ran a 4.29. And he is a burner. He's got incredible deep speed, excellent deep speed, but he's not a pure just, a bunch of 9 routes, posts, corners, that kind of thing. He actually wins at his best at the intermediate and shallow levels of the field. He can be a deep threat, and that's something that separates him from, say, Rashee Rice, who hasn't demonstrated he can do that yet. Maybe he will. He did in college. We'll see. But Brown's ability to separate, especially intermediate against man coverage, and the nuance that he had in his route, he more utilized his speed as a threat to set himself up to create separation on shorter stuff than purely being a win deep over and over and over again guy. And I think that's something the Chiefs offense really missed last year. They had guys, well, and even the year before, with Juju Smith-Schuster and MVS playing better than he did in 23, they had MVS as a deep threat and Juju as a guy who could win shallow and intermediate a little bit. But you didn't have anyone who could do both. And that's what I think would separate Brown in terms of from MVS is he can run those deep routes, create that separation, draw defenders, make him pay for playing single high man, that type of stuff. But he also can win at the shallow and intermediate levels in a way that allows him to be useful. I like the way you said it, real wide receiver stuff. Andy Reid is going to create all sorts of openings on your basic, quick wide receiver screen and hey, look, they're playing man, so we're running mesh. Hey, what a concept, and yep, you're creating separation with a pick there, which by the way, like learning, that's real wide receiver stuff, learning the separation, the timing, the nuance of spacing and that kind of stuff. Not everyone can do that. Like, yep, those little things. And Brown does all of them well. And I think being able to run a more nuanced route pattern than MVS could, or a nuanced route tree than MVS could, that opens up a lot for the offense that they didn't have open last year. And that includes with Rashee Rice, who, as much as he developed within the offense last year, out of necessity, they were like, no one's doing this. We need someone to be a passable wide receiver too, like a good wide receiver too. So they started giving him more and more routes. And thank goodness, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that while Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones were, of course, the 3 most important players, it's not an exaggeration to say Rashee Rice saved the Chiefs' season. Because if he didn't step in to that, the tie's not silver and black, it's blue. Anyway, every time I got to get a better camera here. Sorry, sorry, John Anderson. I know it's blue.
We're playing the hits. We're playing the hits.
It's blue adjacent. So that's where with Brown, he's dynamic at all levels of the field, not just as a deep threat. And that's one reason why I'm still kind of banging the table for them to find a guy who's a little more like an MVS type. Maybe not MVS himself, not just because of how last year went, but the dynamics can be goofy when a player goes away, gets cut and then maybe comes back. I mean, if it was MVS, I wouldn't complain because they would just be saying to him, look, man, you're only going to be on the field half the snaps now, and I hope you did some conditioning this offseason because you're going to run a bunch of 9 routes and, we'll target you 2 or 3 times a game. Yep. And so I would love to see them add someone to where Brown isn't relegated to being that deep guy constantly, because it would take away from what a good job he does on shallow and intermediate levels. That's the biggest thing that I was excited about watching him, is the potential to unlock a more nuanced role within the offense that would be almost more of a blending of what Juju and MVS did in 2022.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I get that totally. And look, I completely agree with your assessment. I mean, I think Hollywood has the ability to really do something that we didn't see from other wide receivers. He can beat man coverage one-on-one. And that was something that with Travis Kelce and with Rashee Rice doing their thing, that Andy Reid is going to put these guys in advantageous situations. And Hollywood kind of does need to be saved a little bit from a press man standpoint occasionally, so you can get him off of those in those aspects. But when you can get him in that, he has the ability to tempo his routes effectively. He uses his deep threat speed to a really good extent. I like the way that he's able to create separation. And so you just needed that in this offense badly. So as long as he's healthy, I think that he can have an excellent season for us. CJ and DG, what I'll ask you is kind of along the lines of what Seth started to get into. As you look at this wide receiver room, and we'll kind of get into a little bit of the draft prospects, both in this podcast and later podcasts that we'll have as we get closer to draft specifically. do you guys feel like there needs to be another veteran wide receiver out there? We've obviously heard about the Odells. Obviously, DJ Chark is still out there. We did see Josh Reynolds get signed earlier today, which, I thought was a fairly good value for what he ended up going for to the Denver Broncos. What are your thoughts as far as getting a veteran wide receiver still into this room in addition to what they already have with the draft coming up?
Yeah, I think for the sake of the room of where it's kind of going at this point in time, they're kind of still on the younger side, even with Hollywood Brown coming in.
Yeah.
So for me, for a developmental standpoint, I think it'll be beneficial for them to go get another veteran guy that's just kind of had some success in this league and had and knows kind of what to do, what to look for, how to be a pro. Not saying that Hollywood can't be that, because obviously he's been in the league for a minute now, but still, you kind of want that guy that's the kind of the old man of the group. I know that they have Justin Watson in that receiving core, but I just feel like I just feel like you need another guy that guys can kind of look to and ask questions, pick their brain, especially if you're going to go out in the draft and bring another young receiver in here to kind of develop at that point too. So that's my only reasoning for them to go out and get a guy who's more of a veteran, more of an older guy, whether that be a Tyler Boyd or Odell Beckham Jr. I'm fine with either one of those guys coming in here and being able to help this room out. So.
No, I completely agree. It wouldn't hurt to add another body. For sure, you like to have veteran leadership, because I think the average age room of that group has definitely went down, obviously, when you remove guys like MVS. But it'll probably be, we know for sure we're drafting a receiver in this draft. So as of now, it's staying the receiver room is Hollywood, obviously Rashid, Justin Watson. Obviously, we have guys like KT and Sky Moore still on the roster. Nico Remigio is going to be fighting for a spot. Justin Ross is kind of a question mark. So it's generally, like D-Mac said, a younger room. So outside of Justin Watson and Hollywood Brown, it's generally a younger guy. Most guys in that room are under the age of 25 or 24. So it's not really an older room per se. So I would like to see a veteran be added, but most of the guys we've kind of been talking about have kind of gotten signed. Josh Reynolds, who was my guy, Seth, I've been fighting for, he got signed by Denver today. So that was kind of like the last kind of hoorah for me as far as free agents. I don't know who, if they do decide to bring in Odell, I've never hated Odell, Seth. We have a guy in our chat whose name is Max. He's like the biggest Odell fan you'll ever meet in your life. He swears to God like Odell's like the saving grace from God. Like, and I like Odell, and he's a 2011 class. He graduated with me, so obviously I appreciate everything in his game when he does. I just don't think he'll come here for the type of deal Veach would offer him. I think, like, obviously if we brought him here, we would make it work. It'd be flawless. It'd be an easy transition, a route runner, guy who has great hands, who knows how to play football.
Yeah.
Game. That would be the easy part. It's just all about the contract, and that's the portion, unfortunately, is the hardest part to get done. So if Odell came here, me and DG would be like, hey, let's get it done. Let's go out there and try to get number 3, man. It would be a very easy transition for him. So I don't think it's likely to happen, because I think somebody like Miami or a team that's more desperate would probably pay him more than we'll want to give him. But I think more than likely, I think if I had to bet right now, it'll probably be like because I know D-Mac like KJ Osborne. There's like so many guys that we could have grabbed at the end that are kind of getting picked up on these cheap deals. So it'll probably be a guy that a name that we don't know that Veach is going to pull out of his hat. I'm like, wow, we weren't even thinking of him. So it's I could see us adding one guy. If we do add him, Seth, it'll probably be after the draft. I don't think it'll be right now. I think we're right now. We got our big dominoes done. We got Chris done. We got the Sneed deal trade done. So now we're just focused on fully in the draft. If we get to like May, fellas, we're getting ready through rookie mini camp, getting into phase 2. I actually just heard Andy on the radio talking about he'll probably let guys do phase 1 from home and do it virtually instead of having them come in the building to get them that extra time away, because it was such a long season. We were playing in February for the last 3 years. So definitely having that extra time to be away and be with your family is good for your mental and for your body. So I could see us like maybe right before training camp signing like a veteran, a guy who doesn't either make a squad or maybe a guy who never got signed in the first place. So I think that'll be like our area when we'll generally start bringing in veteran receivers. But I think as of now, the room will probably be improved via the draft. So, which is a deep room. Obviously, this group is one of the best ones we've seen in a while. We've been here in comparison to 2014. So I'm really excited about this draft. There's a lot of guys we can get on day 2 and day 3. So, but there'll be some veterans that'll come out of nowhere. But I think as of now, it'll probably stay the same. We'll probably just wait for the draft as of now.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if they decide that it's a need. I mean, me personally looking at this room, obviously I'm excited about the draft and who I think that they should be drafting a wide receiver in the top 2 rounds. If that guy slots into wide receiver 3, cool with me. I personally would have Justin Watson as your wide receiver 4 at best. If he's wide receiver 5, that's fine. I think it's also going to be interesting. I mean, Do they feel like they still need to have Kadarius Toney on this team? Do they feel like Kadarius Toney needs to compete with his spot necessarily with guys like Justin Ross and Nico Remigio is going to be very intriguing to me. And also there's going to be a special teams element to that as well. I'm not the biggest Kadarius Toney fan personally, but that's a different conversation. I'm going to be fascinated to see how they handle this wide receiver room as we get closer to the draft. If they decide to add somebody, if they decide, that Tyler Boyd or Odell or DJ Chark, who I know Seth likes as well, can fill into that role. By all means, I'm on game. If you want to have another veteran target that they can work with, fine by me. That just raises the floor of the offense compared to where it was last year, and they need to be able to do that. Certainly, Hollywood was a good first step to do so. So before we get into kind of the draft things, I want to ask Seth specifically, as you look at the roster with L'Jarius Sneed traded, Hollywood Brown coming in, where do you feel like they need to add a veteran guy positionally? Doesn't necessarily have to be a specific name, but where do you feel like their biggest positional need from a veteran perspective is needed to go out and target their newfound cap space?
I think there's 3 spots, and I'll go in the order that I think it's necessary to sign someone. Defensive end, wide receiver, left tackle. And the only reason left tackle's relatively farther down the list is I'm curious what their plan is for Wanya Morris. He showed some flashes. He's got some work to do. His college film was either awesome or borderline undraftable, and it varied snap by snap, which was interesting. And you saw a little bit of that last year, but he played better than I would have thought when he was forced in. And so that's one reason why that ranks third. Defensive end, Charles Omenihu, I hope he recovers so quickly that he's ready to go week 1. That'd be great. But the man tore his ACL in February. Maybe it was the very end of January. Okay. I mean, that's incredible.
January, but February.
Yeah. It's incredibly hard to come back from that quickly and let alone be effective. If he's able to do it, great. If not, your only proven defensive end is George Karlaftis. That is it. And I'm sure they want FAU to have a bigger role. Maybe they want BJ Thompson to have a bigger role. But I mean, that's a lot of question marks. And Mike Dana's just sitting there. He's just sitting there. He's got 700 competent snaps just sitting there. So, I mean, that's the one to me is an urgent thing. That needs to get addressed. And then wide receiver, kind of some of the reasons we talked about before. I think receiver in terms of raising the floor of the offense, in terms of allowing Brown and Rice to not get pigeonholed into certain roles and to have more freedom with someone else that you're not really basing the offense around, to be more of the stretch guy. I just don't trust Justin Watson to do it. I don't think Justin Watson alters the way defenses play you. I don't think they're gonna be like, oh man, we can't call single high. They got Justin Watson. Yeah, he's not. Yeah.
What do you mean? He can't beat you over the top? What are you talking about, Seth?
Yeah, he can. He can.
Yeah.
Can he do it consistently?
All I need is 2 a game. That's all I need, Seth. I need 2. That's all I need.
Well, what you need, though, is not just those 2. You need it to also force defenses to say, we can't play single high and flood those zones that Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce love to play. Absolutely. And that's where with Watson, if he, I'll say it this way, in the worst season of MVS's career, Watson wasn't able to gobble up all of his snaps. Because there was a guy just sitting there, if he could be that deep threat they need, there's a reason they kept marching MVS out there. And it's because he alters the game. Well, not later in the season when defense man, Pat ain't throwing to him. That Raiders game, they were Pat was looking at him nope. And then just it's nope, not gonna do it. And he got over it later in the year. So that's where I would like to see that with a little more consistency than I think you get from Watson. And then again with tackle, it just doesn't worry me much. Defensive end is to me, that's the emergent one, because really, if they bring back, say, Mike Dana, I think they've got a chance for their defense to be as good in 24 as it was in 23. If they don't take a step back on the line, because I really do like Watson and Williams at the corner spots. Love Trent McDuffie. So losing Sneed hurts, but I don't think it ends things for them. And so that's where, to me, it's Really need a defensive end, guys. Like that's the one that I'm panicking about. Much like I'm panicking as my wife texts me, hang on. Well, you guys don't hang on.
Okay,
But
you can.
You guys
Make
don't
sure
hang
make sure
You
she's
gotta get
okay.
that dinner. Get that dinner right,
Make
Seth.
sure-
Don't mess up
Yeah,
now.
Hey, I know the life, brother. I know
So
the life. Right there with
what we having tonight? What we having?
you.
Tonight?
No, I agree with you from that standpoint. I think that you do need a defensive end, whether it's Emmanuel Agba or Mike Dana. I'm cool with either one of those guys.
Yeah.
Somebody with that inside out versatility because of what Charles Omenihu who can bring to the table, and the fact that you're probably not going to have Charles Omenihu to start this season, and it allows you to bring along Felix as you so need him to be. And you don't have to rely on Malik Herring to play significant snaps, which God bless Malik Herring, but I wouldn't want to see him out there for a whole bunch of snaps. I don't mind what they've done in the defensive line room around him. Just those guys were competent enough to bring back. I like what Trshawn Wharton started to bring as he went on into the latter part of the season. Brought back Fidel, they brought back Nadi. Cool. And obviously they needed to sign Chris Jones. That just needed to happen flat out. But yeah, so CJ, DG, what about you guys? What's your biggest need as far as free agency is concerned right now as we sit today?
I would probably go tackle one. I'll probably flip it from Seth just because, like, if we had to play a football game today, I don't mind Wanye starting, but if you had to tell me which position group that I would have more confidence in, like I would believe Spags could figure out the way to defense to mask up a scheme for 1 week in one game. If we had to play a game today, I don't know how they feel about Wanye. Like Seth said about him starting right now, he could make it work. Obviously, he did in the Buffalo game, which was his first start, if I'm not mistaken. So he came in, played well, he ran the ball extremely. That's his best, obviously, physical attribute is his run blocking.
Yep.
But I think they would like to have a guy that's better in pass pro. And I think more than likely guys like Mike Dana and Donovan Smith will probably end up back on the roster. And like we said, those moves will probably be made after the draft once you get all your rookies and all those compensations set in stone. But yeah, obviously, I think I would put left tackle at first and foremost because I don't ever want to see Pat Mahomes get his ankle hurt again like we did in the Jacksonville game at the playoff. I was right behind the bench that game, actually. It was a very, very murky moment when seeing him limp off the field. So definitely today, I would definitely put left tackle at 1. I would probably go DN 2, then receiver 3. The reason I put receiver at 3 just because there's so many options. Like we talk about 10 receivers in the draft, Seth, we haven't even gotten past the second round, and there's probably like 4 or 5 guys after that you talk about, like on rounds 4, 5, and 6. So, yeah, the depth in this receiver room is so great. I love this class more than any other class I've seen in a very long time because usually most classes are top heavy. So, receivers at the bottom for me, DN for all the reasons that Seth said. You need to have more guys around FAU and George now, and definitely you could bring some guys back and maybe bring some guys to free agency would help too. But yeah, I would go left tackle 1, DN 2, and then receiver 3 for sure.
Wait, DG, I will ask you in a second, but Seth is going to have to go because his incredibly hot wife is requesting that he come home.
Incredibly
so we
hot
have to make sure
wife.
Seth gets back.
She wants me to. She wants me to. She wants me. Well, I'm pretty sure that if I don't reference how gorgeous my wife is on every podcast I appear on, she'll find out. And she scares me. I was telling you guys earlier, she frightens me. I'm actually supposed to meet her at the gym. Because she works out. You can look at me. I go on the treadmill and walk. I'm like, nah. I'll put it on a slight incline, break a mild sweat, perhaps.
Let's go, Seth.
Security
But
guard
it's
Seth,
mostly
man.
Up
Gotta make
those
sure.
arms. Up those arms.
I serve. The whole purpose I serve at the gym is to initially walk in there in a tie and a pea coat, looking all professional, give her a quick peck on the cheek to where the dudes are like, oh, she is just here to work out, because she was having hot girl problems at the at the gym, which I'll get, fellas, man, if a girl's at the gym, if she's interested, she'll let you know. Otherwise, just leave her alone. Just let her work out, man. She's just there to work out. Thank you guys for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll get a chance to do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Buddy.
Yeah, look forward to it, man. Appreciate you coming by.
Thank you,
All
Seth.
right. Take care, fellas.
See you, buddy.
Take care. All right. So once again, shout out to Seth. And again, you can catch him on Only Weird Games on KCSN. And make sure you do check out his Substack, Chief of the North newsletter. Excellent breakdowns, great charting of Mahomes every single game as well. And he's doing his Know Your Draft Crust series right now on the draft wide receivers that he's watching for tape breakdowns. So make sure you guys check that out. So DG, free agent needs. Your position that you feel like it's necessary for the team to go out and get right now.
My list, I guess, would say would be kind of different. I'm more of on the side of, I do think they need to figure out that left tackle spot. I know a lot of people kind of a little iffy about Wanye Morris and his second year in development, and just putting him out there. I wouldn't mind them bringing in bringing back a Donovan Smith. That's what they wanted to do, knowing what he was able to do. And then I think he'd be a lot more comfortable in this offense in the second year as well, too, knowing what he knows now and being a veteran and still sticking Wanye behind him and kind of allowing Wanye to develop and learn behind him. Secondly, I kind of think in my opinion, receiver, that veteran receiver is still very important to me at this point in time. I just think for the development of the room, it's going to be real important, especially moving forward. What the Chiefs want to do or whatever. I just think it's kind of beneficial for them to bring in a guy that can kind of just teach some of these younger guys how to be pros.
That list is getting real short, DG.
Yeah, I know.
It's
getting real
shorter every day.
Yeah.
Man,
So,
is the veteran out better than the rookie that we would add? Anything that we did say that? Outside of Odell, the obvious ones like Odell.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's the obvious one that I want to bring in at this point in time. If they can't get him, I'm okay with them moving on with where the room is right now because I got trust and faith in the coaching staff to be able to do what they need to do. I know Andy, be able to develop guys and bring them along or whatever at that point. But I still think that if you brought in that veteran guy it'll kind of alleviate some of that pressure of you having to do some of that work. And then defensive end is obviously I think a position that they do need to kind of attack, whether that be in the draft or being in free agency at this point in time, especially a rotational kind of guy. I would love to have Mike Dana back at this point. Not sure what his asking price is right now, but him being on the market for this long kind of lets me know that price may be dwindling down some or whatever. So if we can be able to get back on a deal, if we can be able to get him back on a deal reasonable, that'd be very appreciated.
Oh God,
Look, the good news about it is we have the money to spend now. Okay, so if they want to go out and get Mike Dana, they can back. I do truly think that you'll see Mike Dana and Donovan Smith back here just because it makes too much sense at this current moment in time. Two positions that need. I will say though, even above wide receiver, even though I'd be fine if they brought in a veteran wide receiver, they need a running back. Okay, you got Isaiah Pacheco, and that's it. You got Deneric Prince,
what
and
you mean?
That's what they have.
What's wrong with that?
They need actual running back with
man. I got options. D-Mac, we got options, bro. Cody Schrader right there. Blake Watson right there.
They should draft a guy on day 3 as well. I agree. They should bring in another guy as UDFA as well. And I tweet this out. Ian Wheeler, my guy from Howard, he had a great season. He can catch the ball in the backfield, got a little speed to him. I would love to see him here in KC.
So many
different
options.
Conversation. They should sign a guy as well, though. Whether it's J.K. Dobbins, Alexander Madison, they just need a guy behind Pacheco. Even if it is bringing back CH or Jet McKinnon, it wouldn't be my first choice, but I understand why they would do it. They need somebody else in that room, at least from a baseline, to be running back to right now before they go into the draft. They can't just rely on generic Prince UDFAs in the day 3 draft pick, in my opinion, to back up Pacheco. And I also mentioned they don't necessarily have a quarterback too, so that's kind of also a big need right now, I would say. So that's
a loser. He wanted to be a loser his whole career.
Where did he sign?
Didn't he go to was it Indy? No, it wasn't Indy. Who did he back
Who was it?
Dang, where did Joe Flacco?
He might have gone to Indy. No, he didn't go to Indy because Shane Steichen wouldn't have signed.
Where did Joe Flacco sign?
What are we talking about?
Because it wouldn't. Joe Flacco.
No, it is Indy. Oh, right. It is the Colts.
He signed Indy. That's surprising.
Thank you, bro. And he had all that big huff about when he won that Jets game on Thursday night. So I'm not a backup anymore. I'm going to be a starter next year. And look where he's at now, fellas. Being a goddamn back. I'm like, why don't you just come here? It doesn't even make sense. I don't know if we actually made it.
I'm surprised that Indy decided to sign him. Me too. I mean, he's not similar to.
That would have been my first. You're older. You're like you could be in a system like Andy. Obviously, you've been in a very similar system to what we run. It makes sense. Like I don't know why we didn't sign him. I don't know if we called him. Maybe he wasn't on our radar, but. Joe Flacco to KC as a backup. I don't think nobody's saying no to that, honestly.
Jacoby Brissett got signed for 1 year, $8 million. I would have loved to have him back here. Obviously, he actually
I'd been cool with that.
He may have a shot actually to start for the Patriots, so I understand why he would have chosen there. Otherwise, so we'll see. But yeah, they need a backup quarterback. They also need a backup running back, and they also have needs, obviously, a left tackle, edge, and wide receiver.
It'll be fun, boys.
I would say I want a wide receiver personally, at least from my perspective, because I think the draft is coming up. So look, let's talk about the draft a little bit here. Obviously, we're getting a little bit closer, so we're finding out a little bit more information. We know the top 3 guys are pretty well set, that are going to go off the board in Neighbors, Odunze, and Marvin Harrison Jr. It seems like Brian Thomas is pretty easily going to be that 4th guy, but we've seen a little bit of movement here. So I'm going to take Brian Thomas Jr. out of this conversation for right now, even though I love him and he would be clearly my 4th guy. Let's say first round, it's not going to be a tackle. You get to 32. What wide receiver would make you over the moon that you could take at 32 right now, taking out Brian Thomas Jr. in the top 3?
Either one of the Texas boys. I'd be ecstatic about either one of them. Like a big body, a guy like AD, we can throw up and actually throw back shoulders too, which we very similarly do in this offense, which obviously isn't a part of what we do, but it'd be nice to have that addition. Obviously, we know he can get down the field. He has that frame that we would like to have. And obviously, X's speed is 1 of 1. Like, he's the fastest guy in the draft, fastest receiver we've seen come out in a very long time. And he's actually a guy who can run routes, like we've said. So either one of those guys would make me ecstatic. Like, I wouldn't be picking either. I'd be super happy either way. They said as soon as they go up to the board and they say University of Texas receiver, I'm happy either way. I don't even care what name they say. So that's all I'm saying. Either one of those guys.
Yeah, I would say if Xavier Worthy's a Chief, I might cry.
He got the jersey already made.
Yeah, I like I've been saying, this has been a dream of mine.
We have one available, right? We can put him in one.
Yeah,
he can wear one. Yep, Jet's gone, so he can wear that one. He can wear that one. DG gonna take a McKinnon jersey and put a tape and put Worthy over it.
But I'm with CJ. I think either one of the guys will say, whether it's Adonai or Xavier, I'm good with. I know Lab McConkey is another guy. I think at the bottom.
Lab McConkey, baby.
First down lad, baby.
At 32 as well. It's not my favorite pick in this draft, but would still be somebody I would be suffice with and go ahead and be willing to move forward with. But Xavier to me is the pinnacle. If we were able to add that kind of speed, additionally with Hollywood Brown speed in this offense, that's just something you can't teach, man. And he can do so many other different things for you in his offense as well too. So yeah, if Xavier Worthy becomes a Chief, I'll probably be pretty damn emotional or whatever. But I don't know either of those guys. Keon Coleman's another guy I wouldn't mind if that's the route they were going to go at that point in time. But
y'all might have to keep tuned to see. We may have some interesting draft announcements that may allow you to see DG get emotional on day one of the draft.
You may have
the way he wants it to.
Make sure y'all following everybody on the panel, DG, D-Mac, and myself.
Yeah.
News for y'all. Stay tuned.
All right. Right.
Yes, please do stay tuned. So look, me personally, I've said it. I'd be happy with whether it's either the Texas guys. I've come around on AD. I didn't initially like some things about him, but watching a little bit more, I understand where his profile would fit in with what we like to do. I'd be happy with that as well. I loved Keon Coleman, still do. I think that there's so much that he has a room to grow in general as a wide receiver. Specifically, the ability to go outside, beat man coverage, especially go down the field. I know people are upset about that 4.6. I'm telling you, it's not there on tape. He runs much faster than that, which you saw with the GPS data. Kid understands how to play the wide receiver position. He knows how to take the ball away at the catch point. Those two things are so paramount to me, especially after we watched the foolishness that was the Chiefs wide receiver room last year outside of Rashee Rice and occasionally Justin Watson. So I would be extremely ecstatic if it was Keon Coleman. So it's really just those four, or I should say those three. And I would include Lad McConkey. Lad McConkey to me is a guy that from day one, I know is going to beat one-on-one man coverage. If you have Travis Kelce, if you have Rashee Rice, if you have Marquise Brown, that means Lad McConkey is going to get a lot of advantageous one-on-one man coverage matchups. I would be very happy with that situation, and I'd be okay with him using. I know he knows how to understand coverages. He understands leverage. He understands how to beat zone. That means that Rashee Rice has to play outside a little bit more. I'm fine with that from a developmental standpoint. If the Chiefs think that he can do so, cool with me. Now, I will say my preferred first-round pick right now is a trade up to go get a tackle, whether it's Troy Fautanu or it is Olu Fashanu. either one of those guys is going to be your left tackle for a very long time in KC, it would be incredible value, even if you do have to sacrifice a day 2 pick, whether ideally it would be 2025 because you obviously have the extra day 2 pick now with the Titans in 2025. So that's my personal opinion from the first round is concerned and how they approach that. And look, I told you guys this, in our previous podcast. We've got a whole, build out of where exactly we want to do for positional value. Next week, specifically, we're going to be talking about skill position, wide receiver, tight end, and running backs in the draft. Week after, we're getting into the trenches with offensive line, defensive line. Week after, we're going to talk about some of the ancillary positions of need for the Chiefs as well that we haven't covered to that point. Our favorite prospects, both early in the draft and late in the draft, we'll get into from that aspect as well. And then we'll get into a little bit of mock draft season right before the draft to keep you guys up to date as far as that is concerned. Unfortunately, the last question I was going to have for Seth was going to be a little bit about Mahomes' evolution. And he is a guy that has actually charted all of Mahomes' games. And I think that it's incredibly fascinating to ask those guys as far as his evolution is concerned. There's been a lot of conversation about Mahomes and Andy Reid, what they cover up from a ownership spending standpoint. And some Brett Veach draft mistake standpoint, which is understandable. Every GM is not going to hit on every single move. And that's why you have the best quarterback and coach in the game to make sure that they can make up for those moves and still have your season end in Lombardi trophies. So my question for you guys is, having been here for the entire ride to this point, is there a specific aspect of Mahomes' game that really impresses you? And I'll start out from this standpoint. When he first came in, we knew how incredible the highlights were. And it was evident from the start. It was incredible. It was spectacular. It was mind-boggling at times. And he was also very good at the mundane things, in my opinion. He understood how to take care of the football, down and down out. He still gave you a really good level of play, but those highlights. But I will continue to say the most underrated aspect of him is his sack avoidance. When offensive lines kind of go into flux, no matter how good the other defensive line is that he's facing, his ability to avoid those negative plays on a consistent basis to keep the team on schedule is always underrated. And it's probably the most underrated aspect of quarterbacking in the game today. And it's just starting to kind of get talked about, especially with this draft cycle as well. But especially for what we went through last year, how many negative plays we had just in general without even trying, just guys not being able to catch the ball or hold on to the football or penalties before the snap. His ability to continue to avoid those negative plays from a sack perspective, I think is always been his most underrated trait. And that was only highlighted further this year. But from you guys' perspective, what is your biggest, underrated Mahomes aspect or biggest evolution that you've seen since he's got here that you really appreciate?
Yeah.
His legs, probably.
Go ahead, see.
I say his legs. Obviously, we know it's an underrated part of his game. Like he's like top 3 every year, like most least sack quarterbacks in the league. He's up there, but like the Josh Allens and Lamar Jacksons of guys that are hard to get on the ground. And you don't think of him in that way because when you think of athletes, you think of like guys I just said, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, maybe a Jalen Hurts. When you think of athleticism, so for Pat not to be the quote unquote dual threat quarterback that most people think of he is, every time in the playoffs, what do we say? His legs turns into his secret weapon whenever January comes. So he finds a way to extend plays. And the biggest play of his career, obviously, was the 4th down on that game-winning drive when he had to slide protection, pull the ball out of the belly, and Trav comes across the field for a flat route. And he just runs all down the field for a first down. So the last 2 Super Bowls, 2 of the biggest plays in the game have been done by Pat with his legs. And most time when you think of great quarterback, you think of them making great throws. So his legs and his just timely use of knowing when to leave the pocket, knowing when to see a gap and take it and hit it up the field and run for a first down. That's his most underrated aspect of his game to me that I think doesn't get talked about enough. And it's just starting now because I see people, it's funny, during January, they're texting me like, bro, why is Pat running so much more than he was last year? People are actually starting to remember the trends and starting to notice it now. So yeah, definitely Pat's athleticism and his legs is definitely the most underrated part of his game for me, for sure.
Yeah, my opinion, man, it's always just been his the maturation process for him year to year. From him coming in, I guess I say it's his rookie year, in the second year when he wins MVP or whatever. But for him to transition from a guy that was just out there pretty much just slinging the ball around the yard, kind of just playing with his head on fire, to now you kind of see the more of that always cognitive thinking on the field, trying to manipulate the defense, finding certain things in the defense that they do, certain tendencies and stuff like that. And you hear it in his sideline talk when he comes, and talks to Andy Reid on the sideline, like, hey, they're doing this, or this safety keeps rotating down. There was a clip in the quarterback series from last year where they were playing the Niners, and he was talking about the safeties kind of drifting down into the box a little bit or whatever. And he was like, they're really gonna do that to us? Like, because I think the next couple plays they sent MVS over the top and burnt them over the top for a play or whatever. But him seeing that, being a constant thing in the game, and then kind of just waiting for that right moment to make that play or whatever, to change the play to something that'll, get them down the field or whatever. So it's just been his maturation process for me, man. He's matured every year. His leadership, I think his leadership is very underrated. Always says the right things. Always, hypes up his guys. But at the same time, you'll see on field, he will light into his guys as well. He'll hold them accountable and make sure, they're doing the rightness off the field as well, bringing guys down to Texas with them to train, seeing him work out with Hollywood and, and trying to build and grow those relationships. You can see it's just not about him, or whatever. He never has that selfish mentality. So I think that's a very underrated part of his game, man. I've loved seeing over his time being here, and I think that's ultimately what's helped him be as successful in the league as he is now.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about his actual leadership. I mean, you just need it. You need it in those moments in which the team feels like it's falling apart or things aren't necessarily going right. And there's a lot made about how he handled certain situations throughout this year, and I said it multiple times. He's a better person than me, because I would have cursed out every single one of my receivers at some point throughout this year. And the fact that he decided to curse out the referees instead is just great leadership, because God knows I would have lost on them a long time ago. That man,
I think Pat does do it. I think he just does it behind closed doors.
Behind closed doors.
Because if he does it on camera, like the whole world's gonna kill him. But I feel like he does probably do it.
I would have lost it in the moment. That's the issue. But no, he obviously understands how to get a team moving in the right direction behind closed doors, as to make sure that those guys aren't embarrassed in front of the entirety of the world, and that's important. That there's an aspect of that to leadership that is valuable, to handle things, keep guys morale high and moving in the right direction with that aspect. So one quick question, then we'll probably do a little bit of mock draft to get on out of here. There's a lot of talk, obviously, with the new cap space. Something that I've continued to say that Chiefs fans should get used to. They're going to be good players on this team that continue to walk out the door. And something that also helped me kind of get a little bit more perspective on the trade was, after signing Chris Jones and making sure that he was here long term, that is the most important player on this defense. L'Jarius Sneed, being moved for a third-round pick. I mean, he was a guy that I thought was going to walk out the door for nothing, essentially, and just count towards a compensation formula, which, again, does not mean that you automatically get a third-round pick, guys. Please learn this formula for the love of Jesus Christ. So I thought he was just going to walk at the end of the season. I thought he was
we didn't even know he had a mic over there.
I know he did. Like, when he leaned like this, he was like, "For the love of Jesus Christ, it is not a third-round pick. Please remember."
If I see somebody say, if I see another person say that you could have just gotten the same return for him if you just let him walk and rescind the check, I'm going to
it's a third-round pick. What do you mean? It's a third-round pick.
Anyway, I thought he was just going to walk. This time in August, or this time last year, I thought he was just going to walk because he was a really good player. But the Chiefs don't necessarily play really good players that end up coming here long term, and especially with his age and the position he played. But he had an elite season, and you were able to get an extra third-round pick for him. That's a win, in my personal opinion, going back a year for perspective as well. But the newfound cap space and how these guys are doing out their cash budgets. So if you were Brett Veach, if you were, Clark Hunt, and, you actually wanted to spend money, cough, cough, I'm going to give you guys a few names, 5 names specifically, who would be the 2 guys that you guys would extend to keep here long term? Now, 2 of these guys are not eligible until next season, technically, but I'm interested from your perspective. And these are only 2 guys that you can sign to second contracts. It's not like, oh, we can just, maybe sign a different year. No, these are 2 guys that you would sign to a second contract. So Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis, Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith. Between those 5, which 2 would you give second contracts to?
Easy, Creed and Trent.
Okay.
Oh no, you said George too. Sorry,
I said George. Yeah.
Creed's my first pick. Creed's automatic.
Yeah.
Jordan. Oh God, this sucks. I can't watch the season. Like I have to make a decision right now.
Make the decision right now.
George or Trent? Jesus Christ, this stuff.
We only get 2.
Yep, only 2.
Yeah.
George. I gotta go George. I gotta trust the work as Beach has done is finding DBs. As much as I love Trent McDuffie, and he's in one of the best corners in the league right now, especially one of the better young corners for sure. He got the All-Pro tag for a reason. I would probably pick George because pass rushers have always been a premium for me over corners, even though corners are very important. But there's so many good corners that come in the draft every single year, and you have to. Premium is a must at sacking the quarterback. You have to get guys on the ground, especially how many times guys pass the ball. So Creed Humphrey's an automatic. That's the easy one. And then I would say George over Trent, even though I hate to say it because I love Trent, man.
Yeah, I would say if George continues to put up 10.5 sacks a year, it's
Exactly.
gotta be him.
Gotta be George, man. Yeah.
I love Trent. Now I think the world of him. I think he's a great player. I definitely think he deserves to get paid, and whether that be by us or somebody else. But you can't, like we all seen just even in this offseason with Chris Jones, like pass rush is premium. You got to be able to get to the quarterback or whatever. And if you can be able to keep that tandem of Chris Jones and George Karlaftis developing the way that he is, which I think Chris has helped out with a lot of that development for sure. You can obviously see the chemistry between those 2. You got to pay George.
It's getting better.
Yeah. And then on the other side of the ball, man, Pat Neeson's bodyguard, man. Pat Neeson's guy, that's a quarterback of the line, is going to keep the line intact. I think Creed is a real important part of this franchise, especially moving forward. I love Trey Smith, man, but at the same time, I do think that Trey Smith's position is a little bit more replaceable than finding another All-Pro center at that point. So if it came down to that, I probably would have to let Trey walk as well too. Those would be my 2, Creed and George Karlaftis.
Okay. I can't blame you. No, I think it's very fair. Look, in the reality situation, is fortunately, I don't think it's going to be only 2 of those guys. I do think that Nick Bolton's going to stay. I think Creed is going to stay. And I think when time comes to it, they'll find a way to pay both.
Just a scenario for the chat.
Right. Just a scenario for right now. But I will say, in my personal opinion, if I, was going through this, I would actually favor paying Trent McDuffie and Creed Humphrey. The reason being is if you play out George Karlaftis continue to have, double-digit sack years, which, again, incredible value for first-round pick at that premium position. Awesome. In my personal opinion, that would mean that he's getting $20 to $25 million a year. I don't know if he's necessarily ever going to get to the realm where I feel great about paying him because he has Chris Jones next to him that takes up as far as the alpha-level pass rusher attention.
Yeah.
So if you got to the point where you would pay Trent McDuffie and paid Creed Humphrey, and then decided that we trade George Karlaftis on this 5th-year option and got, double-digit sack guy value back for him in a trade at 25, I guess would be his age, and you continue to develop FAU as I think that he can, I would be in favor of what that scenario would kind of look like. So that's just my personal opinion, the way that I see it. But we'll see how, the actual Brett Veach and Clark Hunt decide to play things out as we continue to move on from that aspect of it. So anyway, we'll go ahead and wrap up here. We got a little bit under an hour, so we'll probably end with a little bit of a mock draft if you guys are down for that as well.
Boy, oh boy.
They love the mock drafts.
They love a good mock.
Yes, we love a good mock draft, man. Just have some fun with it, no pressure. Just go out there, see what ends up happening. So yeah, we'll go ahead and throw it up on the screen here and have some fun with you guys. By the way, while we are here, like I said, we're going to have a lot of breakdowns as far as draft picks are concerned, draft prospects, I should say, position by position, starting with offense next week, into defense for the premium positions. Then we'll get into some ancillary ones as well for the Chiefs' needs. And, go ahead and wrap up with some more mock drafts as we get closer. Mock draft specific episodes, I should say, as we get closer to the April 27th draft as well. And, like I said, keep a lookout because we may have some interesting news for you guys. So I'll go ahead and let this run. Oh, that went fast. Hey, look at that.
Bang. Look at that.
So, see the tackles. Troy Fanu, we went back to back there, 15, 16. Brian Thomas at 24. Look, if it's more tackle heavy, then you could end up in a situation where Mr. Adonai Mitchell, lands for Mr. GG, which I know he would be extremely happy about. I also see a guy, TJ Tampa from Iowa State. That's a guy that's very physical at corner, got all the aspects of an athleticism that the Chiefs would want for sure. Did we trade back in our first mock draft? I don't think we did, right?
I think we sat, yeah.
We sat and picked. So the first one here, I mean, me personally, I wouldn't necessarily love moving back to any of these spots. I don't know if the Saints, no, that's not happening. Yeah, so I'm good with sticking and picking here as well. I mean, we'll take a quick dander. I will also mention here, because I think it's interesting to talk about. The Chiefs did have Mr. Kingsley Suamataia from BYU and on the draft, which is, as Andy Reid a pick as humanly possible, but given that he can play left tackle, he has the arm length for it, he's athletic, he's an offensive lineman, and he's from BYU. So it's just everything that Andy Reid
ticks all Andy's boxes, baby.
There you go. So yeah, I mean, look, for you guys, to me, looking at the board, and obviously Keon's also there, and Xavier Worthy's also there. This is unrealistic as far as I'm concerned. Xavier Worthy is not.
I thought he was gone. That's all right.
Yeah, where they have Lyden and Adonai Mitchell,
that boy
also
gone.
there, Jordan Morgan, who I think is more of a guard in Kingsley Suamataia. For me, it would come down to whichever wide receiver you like, and then Kingsley. For me personally, do you guys have any thoughts?
Yep, same one for me.
Yeah, that'd be my thought process in it. It's the receiver, probably. Yeah, I wouldn't mind Kingsley at that point. I know it's a little bit more of a development, but I trust Andy Heck and Andy Reid to go ahead and get him up to speed, and hopefully he can be able to step in and play for us. But I think it's for Andy Reid. I already know it's probably the perfect pick for him.
That makes everything. He gonna love him.
But it also scares me because they hosted him on a visit and they usually don't.
Yeah,
it's like usually don't get guys on visits.
No, we
so
don't like.
Man.
So that's last time we did this, we did end up taking Xavier Worthy at 32. So I think we should mix it up. Let's go with Kingsley and see what ends up happening as well. I'm also going to turn this down because and the reason being is if there's a way that guys fall that I kind of like, maybe we'll explore maybe trading up if things fall into place. So Adonai goes, all those guys keep rolling. Keon goes there. Xavier's still on the board, which again completely unrealistic. Because Xavier's on the board, it's unrealistic. I'm just gonna let this keep on going and we'll see what ends up happening. Oh, appendix with there. Interesting as well.
Look at one before Worthy.
Right?
Yeah, crazy.
Oh god.
So
our guy, Mr. Burton's still there.
Yes, he is. Mr. Jermaine Burton is sitting there. And also Chris Jenkins and McMillan and Tez Walker.
We got options, boys. We got options.
We do have options to say the least. Guy in Kyrie Jackson's also very interesting. Cornerback from Oregon as well. So what stands out to you? For me, I really like Jermaine Burton. I really like Chris Jenkins. I like both of those guys a lot. Do you guys have a preference in where we go here? To me, well, I'll say right now,
it'd be Burton and McMillan for me. Either one right here.
I'd be interesting. I don't know if they're gonna actually, if they'd be interested in this. Okay, so we could swap up to go get a guy if they wanted to. Could you swap up? Okay, I'd be interested in doing that. I would be interested in doing this, taking whatever wide receiver I like the most. But you probably lose out, on a guy like on Chris Jenkins in the case if you end up doing that. If you guys wanted to take Chris Jenkins, but it's something to take into consideration. But you can still possibly get, a Devondre Sweat or Michael Holt Jr., but you could probably grab the guy other. So I'm interested in that trade from the Falcons. What do you guys think? You guys want to stick here and pick a guy, or you want to try and trade with the Falcons?
Where's the Falcons pick again? It'd be 6.
Yeah.
Where is 64 now?
74. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really low.
Yeah.
Are my guys gonna be gone?
Far
Yeah.
back.
Give me Burton or McMillan right here. I'm cool.
Okay. DG, what about you?
If I had to pick between the two, Burton and McMillan, it'd probably be McMillan.
Okay.
I like
I
Burton.
love McMillan.
I like both. I'm cool either way.
Yeah.
Burton is a little bit more of an outside guy.
Mhm.
He just played out there, good contested catch guy as well. I do really like his profile for the record. McMillan's a little bit more in the slot. Some of that I feel like is a little bit more of a necessity thing.
Yeah.
I'd probably lean towards Burton right now, even though I do really like McMillan as well.
I wouldn't mind like if that's the
Yeah,
pick.
so
I'm good with it.
we'll go Burton and roll on from here as well. Chris Jenkins goes right off the bat.
Right off the bat.
Right off the bat immediately. So I'll be fascinated to see. Also a guy I really like, Renardo Green, outside cornerback prospect as well. To see what we end up getting here. So as it currently stands, did not mean to bring up a quarterback. That's not guy. Dominic. Oh man, Edward is gonna love that right there. Bringing up a quarterback, baby. Top 100 quarterback. So Dominic Pruny, a guy that is not a tackle in my opinion, but does have the positional versatility to play tackle. It's a little bit more to play guard as well, which is good value as well from that perspective. I'll bring up some of the interior guys, cornerback, and then also see D-line and edge. I think all four of these positions really come into play here, given the team needs and where the prospects kind of fall from that aspect. Guy in Cam Hart.
Ooh, I like it, Cam.
Well.
Ooh, boy, Cooper Beebe, fellas. Cooper Beebe there.
A guy that's a
That would
beast
be a
at
beast pick.
interior
That'd be a
of the
beast
line.
pick right there. God, I love
Mo Camara, also very good out of Colorado State.
Yep.
So yeah, there's some interesting guys here. Anybody stick out from you guys' perspective that you'd like to go out and get?
Cam Hart, obviously.
Cam Hart would be
Beebe.
a good pick for me. I like the measurements.
Yep, any of them pretty
15,
good.
Yeah.
They all on our board, so I love them all.
Like Cooper as well.
Yeah. Cooper's
Yeah, look, I mean,
maybe a little rich for our blood for corner just because we've been so late, but Cam Hart's he fits our scheme, fits our size and everything that Dave Merritt and obviously Spags love in a bigger, long corner. I think he'd be a good fit to our team, obviously. But
I'd be to trade back, but nobody wants to trade back, unfortunately. But yeah,
facts. I would love Cooper Beebe because he could step right in if we decide to move on from Trey. So that'd be another good guy as well. So either one of those guys makes sense to me.
Yeah,
I really like Cam Hart. Go ahead, DG.
No, I was gonna say I think BB. If BB's there, I think BB.
That's like a beach pick, bro. That's a starting guard right there, bro. He's nasty in the run game. We've talked about it. So,
and I know we always kind of consider each other as a kind of a type of GM that kind of thinks 2 years ahead. So
exactly, that'd be a Trey Smith.
Well, I'll have to break into this because we got some breaking news. The Chiefs have signed Louis Rees-Zammit, which I promise is not a name I'm making up. He is
Louis Rees-Zammit.
Yes, he is a rugby player, or star rugby player at that.
Athlete.
And he is going to be used as an offensive weapon, which is going to be fascinating.
Sounds like a special teams move, fella. Sound like a return game type guy.
Hey,
sound like
and look,
it sound like a Dave Tobe move. I ain't gonna lie.
That was exactly what came to mind immediately because with the new kickoff rules this year, it's essentially going to be like an outside zone type of run play. And so Dave Tobe has a lot of strategy that he could kind of incorporate into this now. I would be very surprised if they don't use him in this way because rugby does also kind of play out like an outside zone run play a lot of times as well.
That's exactly what I thought.
These guys are close. He has the ability to be a weapon and make guys miss in space and, have a little bit of vision to make it happen. I'd be intrigued to watch what they end up doing with this guy because they said that he's trying out a running back and also wide receiver. So I'm fascinated to see what ends up happening.
AKA he's an athlete. They just put him wherever he needs to go.
Exactly. Hey, CJ, you get on that NCAA 4T, baby. You recruit that athlete, and you're like, hey, man,
put him anywhere I want to. I may put him at DB or something. You never know. I'll put him anywhere I want to. That kid can play anywhere. You know what I'm saying?
He looking like a 4-star athlete to me.
Hey, coach, what we need to do this week? Hey, come over here and practice with the DBs. No, you with the receivers.
Man, he got a lot of raw skills. We're going to see if we can put him somewhere.
He going to have a lot of hats on, you dig? I like it, man. I love it. Another versatile guy.
No, but look. it's Andy Reid, and you trust him to use a guy with some physical ability, and they obviously like him enough to sign him. So I'd be interested to see. And like you said, I mean, the first thing that came to mind was special teams value. A lot of things that are going to be happening on kickoff returns lend themselves to what rugby brings to the table. So I'm going to be fascinated to see how they end up using. So that was nice. Brett Veach actually doing something before the sun goes down. What? Who had that happening?
He's in a different time zone.
I'm shocked.
He's on the East Coast. He's on the East
Right.
Coast.
I love Seth Keysor, but Seth Keysor, I didn't want to be mean. I was going to call it a Brett Veach booty call in the way that he actually does his work, which is pretty accurate.
The Brett Veach
But I didn't want to scare off Seth while he was here.
Hashtag Brett Veach call is crazy.
Yeah, but no, look, hey, we got some Chiefs news during Tell the Truth, which is awesome to see, and it'll be fascinating to see what ends up happening with his development as well. So, before that news came across, I was gonna say I'd lean going Cam Hart because I really like what he can bring to the table. Immediately makes it so that you don't have to necessarily rely on Joshua Williams or Jalen Watson, Najee Johnson, a guy that you can develop. And he'll be here, obviously, 2 years after those guys as far as their rookie contracts is concerned. So I like Cam Hart a lot. Any objections to that pick?
Nope,
No.
not at all.
All right, cool. We'll roll with Cam Hart then.
Thrilled.
Baby, the DB train continues.
Yeah. Thrilled.
Yeah, man, we're rolling on.
6'2", 207, man.
We
got
have not
another one.
seen
We got
him go.
3 big corners, bro. We're gonna be dicing.
So this is I'm gonna see if we can go up and get this pick. I'd be likely to be accepted. Can we do a little something like that
Maybe.
and go up and get this pick? Because I do actually want to go and get Cooper Beebe.
Yeah.
No, if they're accepted. Okay,
Cooper
they
Beebe.
just like nah, man.
It definitely be a
We
beach
gotta
move.
give a little more. We gotta give a little more.
That's it. I'll move back to 187. Okay, all right, a little bit more. Can we make it a 5 and a 6 then? Can we? No. Okay, fine. We'll do 4 and 5 then. I'm fine with that. That's cool. Oh wow, yo, Terry Fodnew is gonna have to see me playing hardball.
Hell no.
I don't think he's gonna be a fullback, but he might be a fullback. I don't know.
We just said athlete, fellas. Anytime we need something,
Hey,
he'll be
We're gonna
there.
be fascinated to see how
He's a utility guy. And look at guys already talking about special teams. Y'all read I already know what it is, bro. We already said that.
We're
We
on
said
the
that.
same. We're on
We
the
said that.
same. Oh my God, they don't want to give up this pick on it. All right, fine. We'll go ahead. We'll let you keep going, man. We'll let you keep going. Is there Bengals? No, Jags wouldn't trade with us. You think? Well, let's see if he goes. You think the Colts will trade with us? See if we can move up a little bit. Go get him. Okay. Yeah, I'll give you a 6.
56% chance.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, forget you, Ballard.
They're like-
forget you, Ballard.
Can we swap back? Oh my God, everybody's very stingy today.
Nobody wants to move with us.
I know, it's crazy.
We're gonna be 100%. Yeah, Lord.
Yeah, I know. Really, like just no options to get any other way.
Jesus Christ. 2 attempts.
Okay, now we can go get Cooper Beebe.
Cooper Beebe is
I really like him.
Same. Me
I
too.
really like the kid.
We love
I
him.
mean, he's the guy that's going to be the Trey Smith replacement. And I hate to talk about it in that sense, but that's the reality of the situation. You are going to have to replace Trey Smith after this season, and you need to plan ahead for that. And I expect them to. And look, you want to go double Wildcat back to back, man. We can get Benson.
Get Benson
as
hot,
well.
baby.
Tight end.
Hey, we need another tight end.
right?
Absolutely, we do. So now we kind of get into a little bit. We can include D-line and edge, I think, from this perspective still too. Do we
Maybe
take?
a
I don't
safety.
think we
Maybe a
took a
safety.
D-line, right?
If there's some guys left.
Yeah, we can get those
Yeah,
safety in there as well.
you never know.
Throw a little safety in there as well. So yeah, we got Ben obviously at tight end. Dylan Johnson guy I like. Miles Murphy at edge, certainly interesting as well. Kamani Vidal, the guy I love at running back. Tip Ryman. Corey Clark, Anthony Gold. A little bit deeper down into it. Based on this, I mean, I like Miles Murphy.
Miles Murphy. Yeah, I was about to say Miles.
Yes, I like Miles
like
Murphy a little bit. He's got a little something to him. Jordan Jefferson, a guy that believe Mason Smith and Mekhi Wingo were the guys that I believe Joe Cullen was talking to earlier today. Joe Cullen was running the LSU actual D line drills, I believe. Actually,
their pro day. He was doing their D line
for
drills
LSU's pro day today.
Ooh, so he's interested. You don't go down there for no reason, fellas.
No, you do not.
Oh, they sent Colin down to LSU.
D line drills. Yep.
Yeah, they did.
They usually bring one coach to bring down to do each position. So if they brought him down there, he must be interested in a guy.
Yeah. For some reason, I can't find the report that I saw earlier today about him, who he was talking to. But yes, he did run the D-line drills for LSU today, for which you may take that for as far as Jordan Jefferson is concerned. For me, it'd be Ben. I'd be very happy with this pick at 159. And you guys see anybody else that was fairly piquing your interest?
I love Jason Bell, but Irv Smith's the same guy. It'll probably be either him or Tip Raymond for me, or Tip Ryman, how you say his name. If they decided to pass on tight end, I could see them doubling back and trying to get him. So if they wanted to take Jefferson right here, I wouldn't hate it. Murphy would have been an amazing pick as well. But I like Ben Sinot's game. I like his game. I'm always biased towards tight end, so I love Ben. But I don't know if this is round five's not terrible. So I think Ben would be a good pick here. He can play, he can block, catch the ball a little bit, got a little wiggle. I like Ben. I like this pick. Okay. Our local fans will love it. That'd be 3 K-Staters in the last 2 years. Whew. Yes, like Kansas City Wildcats out here. DG gonna hate it.
Well, nah, I don't hate it. I love
like F all them Wildcats. We need more Longhorns in the building.
Ben is definitely a guy that I think could be very versatile. Stevie was asking about that fullback role. I think that Ben can obviously step in and play that kind of H-back role as well too.
That'd be a great tight end room with him and Earl. That'd be an amazing. Oh boy, you want to know what I'm doing at training camp, DG? I'm on the far side.
Yeah,
right. I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be right there recording my boys. I'm right there, my dogs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, now
yeah, so we're all in here at back in around round 5, I should say.
We got 2 picks left. Okay.
Yeah, got 2 picks left. Obviously, running back, safety, D line. Have not taken a defensive lineman to this point. I should also throw edge on here because it's worth throwing in here. Jalen Harrell, Juwan Briggs, a guy for Cincinnati that's kind of interesting as well. Kind of a really gap shooter, I would say specifically. Solomon Byrd, there is an edge down here, I believe. Trey Taylor, safety at Air Force, really like him. I will say as well. Evan Anderson, bigger D lineman out of FAU as well. K. Logan, K. Weaver. Other guys down this board. I mean, anybody that you guys, I really like also Miles Cole, simply from an athletic standpoint, but anybody to you guys that kind of stands out?
This is like 5th. This is still 5th round?
Yeah, the 5th, but, essentially 6th in our second to last pick.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm not too like, oh man, if we don't, get this guy.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys.
Guys at this point, seeing what they got. I wouldn't mind Jordan Jefferson at this point.
Yeah, I go D line too. Somebody need to add some depth.
Jordan Jefferson, senior guy, 6'4", 317. A little bit more stout in the run than he is in the past.
Long arms, I believe.
He does have long arms.
Check the box.
Yes, checks massive long arms. So we'll go Jordan Jefferson and then let this go ahead and run through to 221.
That's right. Ended with Cody, man. Call it a day, boy.
Yeah. See if he goes off the board. He went. Yeah, he just went off.
God dang it!
And Trey Taylor.
Oh God.
That's terrible. Love my guy Dankwa and CJ Hansen. Smaller schools guys.
My guy Blake Watson got picked.
I like. Yeah, they got Taula as well. Sitting there. Evan Anderson still on the board. Andrew Rame, good Oklahoma guy. They're starting. People are catching on. I don't know where he ended up going in this draft.
Jordan McGee. I love Jordan McGee.
I know you like Jordan McGee for sure. People are starting to catch on how good my guy Tanner Bortolini is after how he killed the combine. I didn't see him go. But anyway. He went very good. He tested very well. There he is. 203 to the Broncos. Kid can play all 3 interior spots, and he's very athletic. He knows what he's doing. He's smart as well. So yeah. Anybody that stands out to you guys as far as the positions we can go after, I'll throw wide receiver on here, probably running back certainly, safety, and then we'll do we just took it. We took Jordan Jefferson, so I'll throw him on there. So yeah, I mean, anybody from you guys that kind of stands out.
Blake Watson is somebody you always talked about, CJ.
That's my guy. Blake out of Memphis, baby. Third down back. Y'all love Jeff McKinnon. Y'all gonna love this guy. Same thing.
I will say he played obviously Mizzou. I watched the entire game. He had a heck of a game versus a great Mizzou defense. I really like what he brought to the table. Brought some explosives too. So I would not be upset if the pick was Blake Watson in this case as well. And obviously we know you like certainly your guy Jordan McGee, and I like Miles Cole as well.
I like Miles Cole too. Yep.
But look, I think we need a running back, so I would probably lean that way right now. Yeah, I'd probably lean that way as far as running back is concerned. Blake Watson, I like that pick.
Let's go, Blake, baby. Memphis finest, baby.
Yeah. So as it runs out, we just talked about Louis Reese a little bit. Obviously, athletic guy that's going to be able to come in, be a weapon. Look out for him on special teams, certainly. Would not be surprised if he's used there as a returner too. So yeah, this is what the mock draft ends up coming on. You got the left tackle pick there with Kingsley Suamataia. The Andy Reid special, to say the least. Jermaine Burton, outside wide receiver, guy from Bama, can run a very good route tree. Has a little bit of polish that needs to be taken, but has good athleticism as well. Cam Hart, I don't care what PFF says. I would love to get him at 95, man.
They're stupid.
That dude is long, athletic, knows how to play the cornerback position very well for Notre Dame. I'd be happy to have him. He would start, in my opinion, over Williams and Watson.
And that's the only pick they hate is that one. So yeah, PFF stupid.
Yeah. Cooper Beebe, a guy that's going to take over for Trey Smith in a year. Incredibly physical, knows how to move people in the run game. Pretty good athleticism as well. Ben Sinnott, a guy tight end. You know, you have him kind of. He can also play a little bit of fullback too. But we got a situation is, you know, you're losing Noah Gray probably in a year. Irv Smith's on a 1-year deal. Ben ends up solidifying that room and probably for potential to be more. Jordan Jefferson, interior defensive lineman from LSU. Guy's a little bit more of a run stuffer than a pass rusher, but, you know, still brings that ability. Blake Watson, a guy that catches the ball in the backfield, brings some explosiveness. I like what he brings to the table from Memphis. So yeah, that's the mock draft for the week. Like I said, we'll be getting more into position specific draft prospect breakdowns. There it is. As we get into these next few weeks as well. And also, you know, we'll do some more mock drafts as we get closer to the draft for sure. And like I keep saying, make sure you guys are tapped in the Kingdom Cast. All of our Twitter handles, Keyword Prolific for DG, DMAC Wake 316, myself, and CGZ for CJ right down there. As you guys tap into that, we will be having some news shortly that will be very fun to announce. So, yeah, for that, it's going to be another episode of Tell the Truth, man. Hope everybody enjoys. Peace out. Thank you again to Seth Keysor.
Oh, shout out to Seth. Bang, bang, bang.
Shout out to Seth.